I've been a commercial gardener for about 5 years now, and overall it's not bad. Sure, the pay isn't great, but I get to spend my days outside, surrounded by nature. I've always had a green thumb, and I take pride in my work. But lately, things have been off. I've been working on this new project, a garden for a wealthy client with very specific tastes. She wants a garden filled with rare exotic plants, the kind that thrive in the darkness and seem to whisper to each other when no one is looking. At first, I was excited. It was a challenge, and I love a good challenge. But as I started working, I began to notice strange things. The plants seemed to grow too quickly, their leaves unfurling in the moonlight like tentacles reaching for prey. And then there were the shadows. They seemed to move and shift, and take on shapes that shouldn't be possible. I would catch glimpses of them out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look, they were gone. But the worst part? The dreams. Every night I dream of the garden. I dream of the plants, growing taller and taller, their branches twisting and turning, reaching out to grab me. I dream of the shadows, whispering my name, beckoning me closer. I know I should quit. I know I should walk away, but I can't. It's like the garden has a hold on me, a hold that I can't break. And so I keep working, day after day, night after night, and every day the garden grows stronger. Every night the shadows grow darker, and every dream the plants get closer, their leaves brushing against my skin, their roots wrapping around my feet. I don't know how much longer I can hold on, but I know one thing for sure. I'll never look at gardening the same way again. A few years ago, what started off as a routine trip to the local store for a few gardening supplies turned into something much darker. I still remember that day vividly. The sun was shining and I had just moved into my new home. Eager to make the most of my small backyard, I decided to spruce it up with some plants. I grabbed my keys, hopped into my car, and headed to the local garden center. When I got there, the store was bustling with people, all searching for the perfect plant to brighten up their homes. I wandered around aimlessly a little bit, taking in the vibrant colors and fragrant scents. Finally, I settled on a few pots of vibrant red geraniums and some herbs to plant in my small vegetable patch. As I made my way to the checkout, I noticed a small dusty book tucked away on a shelf. The cover was faded and worn, but the title caught my eye, The Secret Garden. Intrigued, I picked it up and flipped through the pages. It was a guide to creating a hidden garden oasis, filled with rare and exotic plants. I couldn't resist the allure of having my very own secret garden. I added the book to my basket and checked out, eager to get home and start my new project. The garden center faded into the distance as I drove home, the book lying open on the passenger seat beside me. I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement as I read through the pages, imagining the lush, hidden garden I would create. Little did I know that my innocent purchase would lead me down a dark and twisted path. The plants I chose, the soil I used, even the water I gave them, all seemed to be cursed. The once vibrant red geraniums turned a sickly shade of brown, and the herbs in my vegetable patch withered and died. I tried everything to save my garden, but nothing worked. It was as if the very life was being sucked out of the plants, leaving them lifeless and barren. And then the nightmares began. I would wake in the dead of night, drenched in sweat, with visions of a dark, twisted garden haunting my thoughts. I could hear the whispers of the plants, calling out to me in the darkness. I tried to ignore the dreams, but they only grew stronger. I could feel the pull of the garden, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. I knew I had to return to the garden center, to find the source of the curse and break it once and for all. But as I stepped through the doors of the garden center, I realized that I had made a grave mistake. The store was empty, save for the shadows that seemed to lurk in every corner. The air was thick with the stench of rotting plants, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. I knew then that I had entered a world of darkness, a world that I could never escape. The garden center had become my prison, and the cursed plants my eternal tormentors. From that day on, I wandered the aisles of the garden center, lost in a nightmare of my own making. The once bright store had become a twisted labyrinth, filled with horrors beyond my wildest imagination. And so, I warn you, dear listener, to be careful when purchasing that seemingly innocent gardening book, for you never know what dark secrets it may hold, and what horrors may await you in the garden of your dreams. This one time when I was a kid, my aunt took me to this gardening convention thing. I'm actually not sure what it was, but there were a lot of people with booths set up that were selling different types of plants. I guess it was kind of like a carnival, but instead of cotton candy and Ferris wheels, there were rows and rows of exotic plants and flowers. My aunt, who was always a bit eccentric, was particularly excited about a booth that was selling rare carnivorous plants. She dragged me over to the booth, where a man with a long, scraggly beard and a mischievous twinkle in his eye was selling Venus flytraps. He also was selling pitcher plants, and something called a nepenthes. My aunt bought one of the nepenthes plants, which looked like a harmless little pitcher plant. The man at the booth told her to be careful with it, because it had a taste for more than just flies, whatever that meant. My aunt laughed it off and took me back to her house, where she set up the nepenthes in her greenhouse. As the weeks went by, I noticed that the nepenthes was growing at an alarming rate. It started to take over the entire greenhouse, its vines snaking up the walls and across the ceiling. My aunt didn't seem concerned though, she just kept watering it and talking to it like it was her pet. One day, I was playing in the greenhouse when I tripped and fell into one of the nepenthes pitchers. I screamed as the plant's sticky liquid began to dissolve my skin. I managed to pull myself out, but the plant seemed to have grown even more aggressive. It started to move towards me, its vines reaching out like tentacles. I ran out of the greenhouse and locked the door behind me, but I could still hear the nepenthes thrashing around inside. My aunt came running, and when she saw what had happened, she started to laugh. She said that the plant was just playing with me and that it was harmless. I didn't care, because I knew better. I knew that the nepenthes was alive, and it was hungry, and it was only a matter of time before it got out of the greenhouse and came for me again.